Hey, it worked. I think my internet connection might be a little bit glitchy, but hopefully the audio will be good. Yeah, this is a little strange how it's kind of glitchy. Okay, so I'm just going to say a little prayer, calling in my brothers and sisters from Alcyone. Enhance the internet connection if you would, and just make this what you want it to be. To share with whoever might benefit from hearing from it. And Jesus bless this. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so a couple of months ago, December 21st to be exact, is when I finally started to write all of this down. Gosh, let me see if there's anything I can do to help my stream. Um, no, I don't think so. So anyway, nobody's on yet, but if anybody does join, gosh. Anyway, sorry. I'm feeling really run down now, and I think it's because they wanted to do with the second channeling, and they just had to get my attention. So here's the first channeling. I just asked them one night. I just want a connection with my most recent star family incarnation, because I know I've been on Earth for a long time, many lifetimes. But whatever my incarnation was just before I came here. And immediately these beings came through. We had a long conversation. I'm just going to go ahead and read. There's a lot about Jesus in there. There's a lot about the Great Awakening, the process, why it is the way it is. And then I'm going to tell you this other experience that I had about 15 minutes ago, which is more up to date on the awakening. And I'll have to tell you a little story before I get started with that about yeah, we'll get to that later. Anyway, yeah, and forgive me for being a little out of it, but yeah, we're getting some huge blasts, and we're just all responding however we're responding. So anyway, Alcyone Channelings. This is from last December. I asked for a connection with my most recent galactic family incarnation. Some very kind and gentle beings came to me. A prominent one was feminine and felt maternal. We chatted very quickly, a very rapid thought exchange. It seemed they were very open to share anything with me. Oh, also, when I asked where you from and they said Alcyone, I had to look it up. I had no idea what that was. Turns out it's the central biggest star in the Pleiadian galaxy, or at least I was told it was the biggest one. But anyway, it is in the Pleiades. So, and I kind of knew that. I kind of knew that about my soul journey, that I was in Lyra, and then eventually came here, and the Pleiades was the last place I was there. They explained that. They were very open to share anything with me. Jesus has a brother there, were the words that I heard. My soul itself was pure and didn't need redemption when I was there. But a curse was upon the earth, and all who incarnated here fell subject to it, and Jesus came to lift the curse, to completely reverse it. All strength, growth, insight, development into love, and greater maturity as a result of working against the lie of the curse, primarily to cause us to believe and behave according to a misguided idea of who we are, would be retained. So all of the growth of working with the lie would be retained. Jesus is very excited about the ingenuity of the Father's plan. I felt the total harmony, freedom from fear, and love of this existence. I trained, or became entrained, for about 1,000 years or cycles. Something they said to me, okay, so if you're listening, let me know if you can hear the audio, because the connection looks really glitchy on my side. So let me know if I need to just start over or try to do this from my phone instead. There's an entire blank page in the middle there, which I think is interesting. So I trained in the Pleiades system for 1,000 cycles, or maybe incarnations. Hi, Jeannie. Good. I'm glad you can hear me. To acquire skills, the staying power within a density keeping the cord to source connected and full. That was the training. To complete a very long-range plan to eventually come to Earth and participate in its glorious development, emergence, redemption, ascension, becoming itself, participating with, alongside the glorious soul of the One, being Jesus. So this is all just pretty much channel material. The journey of my soul through lifetimes on Earth. I received an initial memory to block my royalty. The word they gave me was not translatable. So it's not a hierarchical kind of royalty, but it's like my stature. Um, yeah, that was a better word. They blocked my memory of my stature. This theme is repeated often in stories of the ranger, the vagabond, the bastard, the boy wizard, because of a Christ-like desire to, in the name of compassion, to experience pain, limitation, etc., to participate in that which is unreal, untrue, that we may participate more richly, deeply, appreciatively in the real, the true. I did participate in the creation of Earth, her story, unfoldment from physical soul, creation, development. Overseen by the Father, Earth was lovingly, I haven't read this for months, so this is like, whoa. Overseen by the Father, Earth was lovingly, brilliantly conceived. We used our own DNA. Oh, that's interesting. They were talking to me about my DNA, the DNA of all Pleiadians, all Earthlings who have star DNA. They said that's coming out soon. We used our own DNA and thought forms to seed the planet with life. Other galactic family participated and brought their own essence, gifts, particular areas of development to the project. I know most everyone due to previous incarnations with them, Syrian, Lyran, Andromedan, etc. So all of us have all of that history. There are clusters of lifetimes given to various themes. I think they're talking about my lifetimes. Some are localized to areas, genetic lines, and time periods. Other themes transcend all of these and include other planetary experience. Okay, questions I had. What can you tell me about Earth's current developmental task? Unity. Unity and harmony forged within the individual and out from there. Peace. Consider how just before a breakthrough to a new way of being, we tend to exacerbate the old way as if to reinforce that we no longer want it. Like when you break up with somebody, sometimes you have, like you break up and then you go back and have the mini relationship to reestablish, oh, okay, because it's such a shock to your nervous system to leave that old container and identity within that relationship. So you leave it, you go back for a little comfort and to reestablish the fact that, okay, I don't align with this anymore. That's what we're going through as a planet right now. As if to reinforce we no longer want it. It acts like a last second thrust into birth. That is what you are experiencing now. Many are so deeply aware of this, even unconsciously, that they are at peace with the apparent chaos. You have all, each and every one of you, incarnated during this time, have gone through this before. It was a requirement to be here to assist. So we've been through this with other planets, I guess. So here's my next question. What can you tell me about those around us who are yet blind to the enemy, who the enemy is, and what they are doing? They serve as a buffer for the energies of anger, hatred, trauma necessary for the burst away from it. They help maintain the balance for the ship, like ballast. They will come along gently very soon. So the image that I was getting from this is like in a partner ice skating dance. One person digs in and holds this pivot point so that they can swing the other person around. And then that person holds a pivot point so that the other person can swing around. And they said, if you had awakened all at once, it would have been too much for the ship, for the balance of the planet. And so like half of you woke up or whatever the amount is. And those that aren't awake yet are like serving as this pivot point. So like they were talking about when you emerge from an old system and an old belief system or an old relationship, you have to do it in parts. You have to do it in chunks, with chunks of yourself. So a chunk of humanity didn't wake up on purpose right now. Okay, sorry if this gets explained again. They will come along gently very soon. over the coming years, mostly complete in a decade. As you borrow their energy to push against, oh, and I also think that's accelerated that time frame. I feel very strongly about that. The timeline is changing very quickly right now. People's personal timelines, it's morphing really quickly because the energy keeps going up. As you borrow their energy to push against, they will borrow yours to pull themselves along. Think of ice skaters pushing one along. Pivots, push, pull, advance. Or as one kneels down so the other can climb up to mount a wall or a horse, then the one who got up on the horse pulls the other one up. You feel the best when creating, so they sort of change subjects here. You feel the best when creating because you embody most of the oversoul, creator, source, love, eternal bliss, oneness qualities at that time in the act of creation. That's one reason creative projects involve such an expansive variety. Shape, color, texture, motion, function, rainbow frequency. I just thought it was interesting. The Pleiadians are telling me about this. Oh, okay. I think that was it. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you about the download that I got. So I woke up this morning feeling really, really run down. Really run down. Like if I don't stop, I could get sick. And so I just finally laid down and listened to theta. Pure theta. So it's like two different frequencies in each ear, and it comes through just as a hum. And I was just laying there, and my dogs were getting cozy with me. And then the Alcyones came through again. So I started a conversation, and okay, I reviewed it before I came out a couple times to make sure I remembered it. Okay, so oh, forgive me. I guess I was really in a deep state of mind when this was happening. Okay, I'll just jump in at this point. I said, why are you helping? That was it, because they were helping me and adjusting my energy. And I was like, whatever you need. And they emphasized over and over and over again, you've been pushing and pushing and doing a lot of work, a lot of manifesting work, a lot of moving forward and intentioning. And you have to stop and rest. And I had a lot of tears to let go of, a lot of like, yeah, it's been really hard. I've been really pushing to manifest something, going through a difficult time. And I'm like, I need to get past this. And so I've just been really high vibration pushing past it. And then they're like, okay, you need to just collapse and cry for a while. So they just pulled out all that kind of emotion that was sitting in there. And it was really sweet. And then I just said, why do you help us? And they said, they referred to Jesus as like someone that they really, really revere. And not like he is from there, but that he participated in their culture long enough for them to have, like, they know him really intimately. And they have such a reverence for him because of his accomplishment of coming down into the density of earth, giving his life completely, all of his suffering, and then transcending it. And they're like, greater love hath no man than to lay his life down for another. And they were saying, what's the word? We want to achieve this. I can't think of the word. Aspire. We aspire to this. And so then they also said, we're invested in the earth because you are one of us. Just the earth is just heavily populated with, Pleiadians. And then they said, soon it's going to come out into the public. And right now, I just have such a sense that that the really dark and technologically advanced players behind the scene have access to this technology. And it's one reason they target somebody before they even gain a following or become significant, because they can see down their timeline, they can see their past lives. And I'm getting that they do it through the DNA, because they were saying DNA is information. It's just information. So we carry in our DNA all the information about our soul journeys. And they said very soon it's going to come out that there is this technological advancement that can identify what planets you're from, what star systems you've been through, what your galactic DNA is. I was like, oh, that's really cool. So then I asked about, okay, here's where I have to pause and tell a story, because I think one of my missions is to be on the front lines with the whole awakening process. Why are some people not awake now? Like even really good, high vibrational, spiritual types, why are they not awake yet? Why can't they see? How are they so clearly deluded when it just seems obvious and they're still under something? And so I'm like, I'm really concerned about that. I'm really invested in that process. And so I have to segue to tell you this story. So there is a female channel that I highly, highly revere. And I feel like we have a lot of past life connections. But she has been on the path of being like a medium for like at least 50 years. Talking to dead people, channeling, just the most gracious, loving, beatific soul. One of the most gracious souls I've ever met. Okay, well, I was sent a channeling that she did where she was talking to some guy with a very ordinary name. I don't want to give too many details, but anyway, the nature of the channeling started out about the political front and how Mr. T and Mr. E are just gathering in all of these things because they're selfish and they just want everything for themselves. And that's why they're running this dictatorship and going against all of our core values. And it's like my guides are like, listen, just keep listening. And they gave me the capacity to listen. And usually I get super triggered. And I was like, oh my God, because it couldn't be more opposite. And so they were just allowing me to listen to this. And then there was something about a spaceship later on. And I just had to fast forward through it and like jump, because I was like, okay, let me just tap in here and here. And, what was interesting to me is that everything that was said was a very beautiful articulation of the dark. They just had the characters wrong. And my guides were saying, these Pleiadians were saying, that's not terribly important that they have the players wrong, because the evolution that's happening is to identify the values you don't align with, and then to learn how to relate to that enemy with love. And she kind of closed it out with this message, very strong message she was getting, to pray for Mr. T, to really pray for them. And this was just kind of flummoxed her. I was like, yeah, okay. And this is our entreaty, to pray for those who have fallen victim to the dark and have been controlling the world. Amazing. And that's at the beginning of that channeling from a couple months ago. That's the point, is to get to unity. And I connected with a super high dimensional message a few days ago, and they said the same. It was just as I was waking up, and they were showing me how everything comes together in this place. And it was, it's so easy to get it when you're there. Okay, so anyway, so after she shares all of this, I go to her higher self and the higher self of whoever the hell was giving her this information, and they both laughed at me. And I was like, what are you doing? Talking spirit that she was talking to. And he's like, this is the packaging that she can handle it in right now, according to her belief system. So there is truth in here. It's just that they have the players wrong. So yes, there have been forces that have been wanting everything for themselves and manipulating everything. And there has been a dictatorship on this planet, and that's all going away. That's all changing. So I think they were like working with her relationship to that. So then I went to her and I was like, what does your higher self have to say about the fact that you're really deluded? And she laughed. She just kept laughing. And she was like, this is a role that I'm playing. And it was just beautiful. And I was just guided all day, every time I thought of her, to not be triggered and irritated, but to just be in this really super gracious, loving, higher self place with her. Like, okay, this is just a role you're playing. And then something else I've noticed, this is going to seem like a big segue, but it's not. So I am partnering with another woman. I go to this women's Bible study every other Friday, and I'm co-leading with her. And guess what we had to talk about this week? What I was assigned with. We have to talk about hell and how the only way to get away from it is to accept Jesus as your savior. And I was like, I just told her the truth at the very beginning. I was like, I just can't. I can't go there with you guys. I've read too many near-death experiences, and I just can't align with that anymore. And I've been reckoning with what Jesus did on the cross for a long time, and I think that's why they went there with me, because they wanted me. They're helping me to integrate and understand that whole sacrificial death and why did he do it. And there was a curse on the earth, and he lifted it. And my sense of it was a universal thing. He lifted it, opened the door so that I stand at the door and knock, and I don't think that door closes even after you die. It's always open, and it's all about union. It's all about unity and achieving, unity with the Father, which is a non-dual state. That's why he came, was to open up the door to that and lift the curse from, this planet. So anyway, back to, okay, so my Pleiadian friends, my Alcyone friends, showed me then, this woman in particular, and they showed me what they were doing. They showed me reaching into the psyches, the consciousness of everybody that isn't awake yet. And what they were doing was pulling out threads. And the threads were kind of short threads. And it was like one after the other. And their belief has been that this thread is connected to everything, that they've got a real grasp on the situation. Here's this unity thread going through. Here are these players, and this is what they're doing, and this is their story and their intention. And their threads are going to come up short, and they're going to be like, oh, I'll have to throw that one out, and then another one, and throw that one out. And then there will be a challenge among them to own the fact that they're running into some cognitive dissonance. They're becoming conscious of it. They're having to let go of Orange Man bad. They're having to let go of like, oh, I had this all wrong. And there's this exposure of who really have been the bad players and the perpetrators. And as they're emerging from this, the growth is to, it's letting go of the fear of disapproval and the fear of the level of condemnation that they participated in. When they were condemning, like Trump supporters, they're like, oh, if I become one, am I going to be subject to that from my community? But they're going to gradually find each other, drop little hints, like there's the terminology that we use to sort of let each other know that we're awake. Have you noticed that? It's so cool. Anyway, there's a lot of light around her as I see her communicating with someone else in her group, and like, oh, are you waking up too? And there's just so much light. Okay, so then my next question was like, kind of like, what's my role here? What do I do? And suddenly I just see this little paw, this little hoof, tiny little hoof. It's a dark hoof, kind of doing this little white, and I was like, okay, just focus in on it until it becomes bigger, because I don't know what this is. I have to drop my mind. And then it turned into this little lammy pie. And I look, and it's Jesus. And he is the lamb. And I was just reading Revelations, looking for something about the delusion, the Antichrist delusion. And I was like, well, that's what this is. It isn't one bad Antichrist figure. It's the spirit of deception. That's what we're seeing play out. But it won't win in the end. Anyway, so there's Jesus. And then instantly he turns into this enormous lion. Oh, it was so amazing. He was this big, he was so joyful. And he was roaring towards a great central sun, roaring with delight, roaring with joy, celebration, laughter. And this enormous sun. And that's where it ended. And I was like, is that Alcyone? And it didn't matter. And I think it's a reference to the solar activity, to what we've been told about the great solar flash. I heard we got some really big solar flares just like in the last day, and downloads are coming. I didn't expect to be totally run down, but that's what they had to do with me, because they're like, I was just going to be off to my yoga class and like maintain my physical. I've lost like 8 pounds in the last couple of weeks, and I've gotten on this exercise regimen. It's like Mars started to go direct. Like I jumped on this bandwagon when Jupiter went direct, but Mars just went direct. So anyway, I was about to like stay with that energy, and they're like, no, we have to give you this download. And I was like, oh, I have to go share this on my YouTube, don't I? And I'm always afraid of boring everybody. And I was like, it's just going to be as long as it's going to be. So Jeannie and whoever else is here, thank you so much for staying with me, because I felt your energy and I needed that support. I felt it when it went away. Suddenly the view count went down to 0. And if you never went away, let me know, because that view count we have been figuring out is lying to us. Because people will check in and say, oh, my view count says 4 or 8 or whatever. Anyway, so that's about it. And so the awakening, to just kind of recap, we don't really have to do anything about it. There's kind of a, sit back, relax, trust, trust, trust. That's my message for today that I was getting is you have to let go. You have to let go. You have done all of this work, all of this manifesting, all of this holding the field, doing your due. And now you have to just sit back and realize it's not all up to you anymore. You need a rest period. So if you're feeling that, take it. It's a relay race, and sometimes some people are running out ahead and others are resting. So anyway, that's about it. And thank you so much for listening, and have a blessed day, and know that all is well.